it, it will pick up your voice no matter what you do. So off or on, on.
All right, welcome to the Sunrise School Division Board of Trustees meeting for June the 6th. My name is Paul Mangy, I'm the board chair. I'm going to call our meeting to order at 7 o'clock. We're going to have O Canada by Claude Dugald School. Please stand if you can do so. Merci Dugald School, that was awesome. Thanks very much. We have our treaty acknowledgement. I'm going to read it out. We acknowledge that the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides is Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in a partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation. Language. We have our adoption of our agenda. So I need a mover and a seconder for our agenda. Moved by Trustee Dent, seconded by Trustee Smith. Any questions to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Are we waiting for someone? Thank you, Trustee Dent. We got all of us in there. Appreciate it. The motion carried. A reminder to and 3.1 Chair's comments. Please send all questions to jody.peason@sunrisesd.ca. Please send your name and address and sender. Their name and address of the sender, please include it in the email, and we'll get to your questions if you have any by the end of the evening. 3.2 is share a story, and open up the floor for sharing a story. Who would like to go ahead and do so? Trustee Nicol?
In Whitemouth School, they had a kayaking clinic today, and they will continue tomorrow. At least they had good weather today. I'm not quite sure about tomorrow, but they also had a jump rope for hot, and because of the hot weather, they usually have it outside, but they decided to do it in the air-conditioned gym. And I talked about the community picnic. It was a very big success. Of course, it was threatening rain all day, but they decided to hold outside. There was about 300 people there, and they also watched the musical talents of the school. By the way, I think it did rain around 9 o'clock after everything was over.
Thanks, Trustee Nicol. All right, Trustee Dent?
Yeah, I just wanted to say earlier today, so just before the meeting, we had a ribbon cutting at the Oakbank Elementary School for their playground. So it is called Co-op. Oh, I took a picture of it. So I'll throw it on my socials, but it is called the Co-op Playground. Yeah, co-op community playground. So good attendance, so good barbecue, and then the week prior, École Dugald School and SCI as well as SMS had their spring concerts, which were really well attended and just tremendous to see the kids grow throughout the year in music education. So good stuff over there.
Thank you, Trustee Den. Trustee Boyton?
I had the opportunity to attend a number of events happening around the school division in the past couple of weeks. Social calendar was full and everything I attended was amazing. Our schools are full of very talented students and dedicated staff, and the performances, concerts, all events were so well done. The one I would like to highlight today is the Hazel Ridge School Talent Show. What a fun, entertaining afternoon of student talents ranging from singing, instrument playing, puppet shows, magic shows, dancing, gymnastics, joke telling. I know I'm missing something and I apologize for that. Thanks to the students and staff at Hazel Ridge for all their hard work and dedication to put this event together. I purchased a copy of Forest of Secrets, École Everett Schreyer School Literary Arts magazine. I attended the launch last week. Wow. So I brought the magazine if anybody who wants to see it to, take a look at it. And actually they sent me a thank you card for attending and a complimentary magazine. So I'll leave one here if anybody, it was done so well.
Anyone else? Trustee Rowan?
I also had the opportunity to go to the ribbon cutting today at OBE. It was fantastic to see everyone there. In addition to the barbecue that they were having, they had some face painting. There were lots of kids out enjoying the new playground. SMS had their band concert last week, and it was unique in that it was outdoors. It was fantastic to see not only just the parents there to watch the concert, but to see people coming from the basketball area and from baseball just to kind of check things out. Yeah, they went back to their sports, but they stopped to come and check out what was going on. EDS had their Petit Cafe, which was fantastic to go to. I got to attend and I was served by the students in French. I got to order myself a little lunch. The decor was over the top. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Rowan. Anyone else? Trustee Reed?
Yes, it's not really it's working, I think. It's not really a story, but just something I'd like to share is that things seem to be getting back to normal, at least in my little world in Lac du Bonnet, but I had an eventful last couple of weeks. I went to 2 spring concerts. I also went to a track meet, and I also went to a Remembrance Day service. So it's nice to see these things opening up again and everything's getting back to normal, and that just makes me happy.
Thanks, Trustee Reed. Trustee Smith?
I once again got to participate in the Decoration Day services here in town. So for the last, I think, 8 years, myself and my family, we go around to all the veterans' graves in town and in the Arm of Broken Head, and we put a Canadian flag and a poppy on every one of them. And then we participate in the service at the Legion, which was put inside because it was thundering, and also have a lot of participation with the Air Cadets. So a lot of our students that are part of the Air Cadets were also taking part in that event, so it's good that they're allowed to come back and do the services again.
Kath?
I have 2 to share. I have some video footage that I can share with trustees, but at the beginning of this month, Powerview had a school-wide round dance to celebrate the beginning of Indigenous Peoples Month. So we've got a video of an entire school-wide round dance, which is pretty cool. I also have a list because we have done some track and field competing, and just this morning said we have 25 students who've qualified for and will be participating in the track and field provincials in Brandon on June 8th, 9th, and 10th. We have 2 students from SCI, 3 from Powerview, 12 from Lac du Bonnet, 2 from Whitemouth, and 6 from École Edward Schreyer School, who have all qualified. So the provincials around the province rotate from Winnipeg to different areas, and when they are far, far away, we all go together as a division, and we have a charter bus and some hotels there. So our athletes will be competing on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of June. We'll bring back some results.
Thanks, Kath. Kath, I had an opportunity to attend at Powerview School. You'll be able to get to see this great round dance that went on. It was a great kudos to the students that actually were the main organizers of it, and Ashley Schmidt, who took charge of the staff. It was really good to see. We have two schools, Powerview and SEI, that are in playoffs, in the provincial playoffs for high school field lacrosse. They're this weekend at Shaughnessy Park on Friday and Saturday. Sunday, if you get a chance to get out there, go ahead and take a look. And Kath, you're going to have to help me about this one. We had an incident at one of our schools, and we had a staff step up in a pretty big deal. And I'm not sure, I think that Kathy shared it, but it was a staff member that stepped up because we had an incident on a bus, and a staff member went above and beyond. I think, it's just quick thinking, and it's about what, I guess it's kind of what teachers and our staff just go ahead and do and jump to it. Did I get it? Am I getting it right?
I think so, and Paul, you're doing a really good job of trying to protect someone who is in a pretty trying situation, but you're absolutely right. One of the things that I'm super proud of is the way that staff and parents and students step up when they need to, and it's really important, and in some cases, life-altering or life-saving.
Yeah, and so you know what, I went to Kathy and I said, how do we recognize people and when these kind of things happen, and also protect, I guess, health with I guess somebody that it happened to. But it's just one of those things that I think that people go above and beyond. So I think Kathy did share with us. I wanted to make sure that we shared, and I am trying to get out to the school to personally go around and say thank you to the person, because I think that, and maybe there's other times that those things go on in our schools, but that's something I think that people step up and do. So certainly thanks to that went on. Anyone else? Okay, let's share a story. I guess I should have at the beginning of our meeting told everybody that our 9 trustees are here, and our superintendent Kathy, and Secretary Treasurer Jody, and Secretary Treasurer Lars, and our board chair Stacy. They're all board chair. What did I do?
Secretary Treasurer.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, there we go. I called Stacy our board chair, but our board chair help is our chair help. And we also have two of our administrators here with us, Sylvie from Heartland and Kristen from Gross Colony. So for the 10 million people that are watching online, I just wanted to let you know who's all certainly in our room. I probably should have done that a little bit earlier. And of course I put some foot in my mouth and called a few people different names, but there we go. So Kath, I'm going to turn it over to you because we have a delegation here.
Thank you both to Sylvia and Kristen for coming and joining us on a beautifully bright, sunshiny evening and sharing with us what's going on in Gross School and Heartland School. I am thrilled to have you both here, and I know that you have worked hard together all year on a common goal, and sometimes that isolating reality of a really small school and a small staff makes it even more important for you to be working collaboratively on stuff. So I'll stop talking and let you tell us all about what you've been doing.
Hi, so I'm Sylvia Evanson. I am the principal at Heartland Colony School.
And I'm Kristen Bellany, the principal at Growth School. So this is Growth Colony School. We are located in River Hills, Manitoba, and we have 30 students from kindergarten to grade 12. Our current staffing, I'm the principal. Oh, there should have been more that popped up.
Is that the PDF or the PowerPoint?
I'm not even sure what to say, but I can talk about my staffing. So I am the early years teacher. I do K to 4. We have Michelle Jansen. She does 5 to 8 in our school. We have a half-time teacher who is our early years and middle years teacher, Steve Smith, and he helps us to facilitate some smaller groupings for math, so we can have 3 groups of math instead of 2. We also have 2 part-time EAs, one at a .7, Val Bullen, and a .6, Adele Schumann, and they also help to facilitate some of the smaller group work and give the students more one-on-one time with an adult. So these are our classrooms in the school. The early years classroom has 11 students, 1 student with an IEP who sees SLP. We have grade 5 to 8 in the middle years room with 10 students, and our high school students who participate in TMO classes through Pine Creek School Division. They usually work out of our library and our empty German classrooms during the day. So some of the characteristics. All of our students at Growth School are EAL learners. We have been working on strengthening the relationships after the pandemic. We work together with the Colony German teachers to help with behaviors and high school attendance at the school. Our high school students will be taking TMO courses again next year, and our German teacher is also going to be instructing German classes for high school in the fall. And lastly, because we are located on the river, we are providing some swimming lessons this year for our kindergarten to grade 8 students, and this is paid for through the water safety grant. And some of the ways that Growth School has spent their money this year is our distance ed money has gone to our TMO courses, and that's through Pine Creek School Division. We have also used the money to replace some of our aging laptops and iPads in the school, and we spend a considerable amount of money from SBDM, small schools, and our EAL funds to help increase our EA time within the school. And as stated earlier, that helps us to make smaller groups and give the students more one-on-one time.
So Heartland Colony School is in Cooks Creek, Manitoba. We're about 1 kilometer outside of Hazel Ridge, Manitoba, and we are home to 40 students. And we opened our brand new building in 2014, so we are coming close to our 10-year anniversary in this building. And for us, it's a huge change for a building size. We went from 3 classrooms to 4 English classrooms, 2 German classrooms, a gym, a library, and a computer lab, just to name a few of the items in our school. Being the bigger school and the bigger building, we're quite heavy on the staff side. I act as the principal and grade 5 to 8 teacher. Stephanie Thornhill is the kindergarten to grade 4 teacher, and Laura Lee Reimer does grade 9 to 12, phys ed for K to 8, and music for K to 8. We are also lucky that we have a half-time afternoon teacher that we've currently purchased to move up to a .9 to go ahead and work with some of our smaller groups for language arts and for math. We have 2 educational assistants in our building, as we have 3 students on individualized education plans. And we house the colony's secretary across the 6 colony schools in our building. So she's in our building for 0.5 of the time. Not in our school, we have, again, 4 classrooms. Our kindergarten to grade 4 with 14 students. And this is where the bulk of our individualized planning students come from, both in individualized education plans and speech and language plans. The grade 5 to 8 classroom, we have 11, and we are transitioning 1 into a modified high school program next year, where we're going to be able to provide him some courses at a regular status and some that we will need to modify for his abilities and needs. And lastly, we are lucky and very thrilled, and we'll talk about it in our funding section, that we have an in-person teacher for our grade 9 to 12 students, 15 students. Having the grade 9 splitting between that high school room and the middle years room to complete their courses throughout the year. In that picture of the classroom we don't have listed as a collaborating teacher classroom. Student colony and characteristics. All of our students are EAL learners. 2 students are currently on course modifications through the division, and 1 is moving toward course modifications. We are thrilled with our cooperative funding model that the colony is willing to spend a significant chunk, upwards of $27,000 a year, to provide 0.25 of an in-person teacher in our building. It is a model that they are very proud of and very willing to do, and maybe other school divisions aren't going to like it, but they share what they get to do because they know other colonies would like to have that in-person model. So they are sharing with other colonies outside of our division that, hey, we work together and we're able to make a collaborative purchase for an in-person time. That though stems from how conservative we are. Our students have zero access to direct internet for any of their works, or anything they get is basically asked through us and or asked through the colony. We are continuing to move in a post-COVID scenario for our colony. It was a difficult time for them and us during that period, but we're starting to see there's a lot of positive restoration amongst ourselves, including, I'm super excited and I can pass it around, they just went 2 weeks ago and it's sitting at the colony by the dugout and we've driven by it to look at how beautiful it is, our brand new play structure that we have been waiting 9 years for. So it is going up this summer. They are going to start some of the work in July. They have a few weddings to get through first, but come the fall time, we will have this monstrosity with what looks like 4 or 5 slides and jungle gyms and walking and all of that that they've pulled in from Minneapolis. So we are thrilled to see that. School funding, I would say as a staff, we're minimalists. We don't like things. We like making sure that our students have people to work with. So as minimalists, as a staff, we tend to be able to pool a big chunk of our money to purchase teacher time. So this year we purchased 0.4 teacher time to be used for our grade 1 to 9s to do literacy support. So for those students who generally wouldn't be given that time based on their needs, again, we use a big chunk of our budget, 0.25 of our distance ed money to use to purchase the other half-time portion of our in-person high school teacher. And we are currently working kind of on a slow process of replacing our iPads because what we're finding is there's tons of apps to use without the internet. So it's keeping our kids engaged and it's keeping them at par with some of the other students throughout the division and being able to use technology for their courses.
So our school goal for the 21-22 school year was to have the students at Grove School and Heartland School increase their fluency in mental math skills.
So what led us to this goal? Overall, it's colony life that led us to this goal. We know that the boys need to be able to get into the shops, whether it's the laser shops, the plastic shops, the chair building shops, metal shops, whatever shop it is, they need to be able to get into there and be able to do math quickly to be able to produce and build items, not just for themselves, but they do manufacture for major industries across Manitoba. So that accuracy in math is super important. And the girls with their communal living, they need to be able to make sure that they have enough material for everyone. The gardens are big enough. They have enough food for lunch to be able to feed everyone. So using those math factors into there. And just taking a look at their data from report cards, one-on-one conversations, which was what helped us originally get to our goal in 2021. We started to see that there was continued student and teacher support that was needed to maintain their growth. And while there's been some improvement, the inability to recall those basic facts were really still limited at the end of year 1, and we wanted to focus year 2 on that, because whether those students choose to live their life on the colony or make that difficult decision to leave the colony, they need to have those math skills for them to be successful.
So this is the data that was collected from Growth School. We collected it through monthly fact fluency assessments that the students did. You can see that there is a weakness in subtraction and division. However, they are getting stronger and stronger in their addition and multiplication. So we also did math running records, and they were done at the end of each term. And that was to track their strategy usage. And when we analyzed the data that we collected from the math running records, we discovered that 45% of the students had an increase in their strategy usage from term 1 to term 2.
At Heartland, we took a look at the data as a whole to kind of see where it influenced us across the board in math. And what we were finding is we were still starting to see those growths in students across the board. We started to see a bigger growth in our kindergarten to grade 4 students, especially in their use of strategies to be able to solve addition and subtraction questions. And then with the grade 5 to 9 students, we started to see a massive increase in their ability to be confident in their mathematical abilities, including their mental math facts, NAP data, mathletics, and problem solving. To look at the NAP program on its own, with our last quiz that we do 4 quizzes throughout the year. With our last quiz, we were happy to see that out of the 14 students who wrote the quiz, 11 scored a mark of 70 or higher, with 2 scoring 100% and 3 at 90%. So when we're getting close to half of our students mastering their foundational facts in math and their foundational abilities to move on to the next grade, it makes us super happy that all of the effort our teachers are putting into building those math skills are working.
So this is just a recap of year 2 of our goal. So our main goal this year was to build student capacity in their strategy usage. We did this through Math Minutes, Math Talks, How Many Ways, and Mathletics. We did a lot of mental math games to help practice their fact fluency. We also dedicated more time to mental math practice in our classrooms, whether it be during math time or extra scheduled time during our cycle. And the NAP pacing guide has been extremely helpful in ensuring confidence in the essential outcomes for the students for the following year.
Year 3, our final year, will be on this goal. We're going to be ensuring the consistency amongst our staff and students. We're thinking this will be our first year with all of our staff and no one going on a maternity leave, which will be fantastic. So we're going to make sure that we're consistent as a 2 school staff, making sure that we're looking at what strategies are explicitly being taught, making sure that we're spending that initial time during PD sessions that we do together, talking about math and what works in our different schools, looking at the assessments and the early intervention, and what we both have found a massive value in is using our halftime teachers to bring down our classroom sizes to what would be considered manageable and for the best needs of the students. Are there any questions?
Thank you, ladies. Questions from anyone around the room? So I'm going to ask you a couple. So when I saw you say that you want some improvement, and you said 45% showed an increase. Picking on you a little bit here, showed an increase of, they went from 1s to 2s, they went from 2 to 3s, they went from 50s to 60s, those kind of things. And I think one of you said that, you know what, we had 14 students that scored on a post-test 70% or better. You know, those are certainly results that you can go ahead and take a look at. And then you also said year 3. We're on year 3 of this, and what's our outcome? So what I'm looking for is, what are you shooting for? How do you know you're going to get there? And if you don't get there, what are you doing about it as to where some of those things? Because we always don't get to where we are, but it's all the reflection that you're talking about going ahead and doing about how you're getting there. So it's a little bit of a loaded question all the way around, but try.
Is it because I'm older? Okay, thanks. Okay, so I can go with the NAP. With the NAP testing, that is the divisional pacing program that we go ahead and use, which we have maybe gone a little ahead in. We've started it with our grade 5s. We've always kind of done the year before anyone else has rolled out. We've introduced the NAP programming. And we've gone as far as looking at what, during the COVID period, what those foundational outcomes were for K through 4, and ensured that we were always getting to the foundational outcomes for math. So when we talk about the percentage and strategy growth, we're focusing a lot on, do they have their mental math facts, so basic addition facts, basic subtraction facts, multiplication up to the 12 times table, and then slowly reverting it back down into division. And are we seeing consistent results from them on the different types of assessments that we're seeing? So with our NAP testing on the pacing guide, for us it's a huge increase in how well they've done, with 11 scoring 70% or more, because at the beginning of the year that mark would have been 3 out of 15. So we have had one student who has not been able to move forward in math. But to have that massive growth from 3 to 11 shows that there is progress in them understanding their mathematical skills. And just in our observations in the classroom, we know the math facts are coming quicker when we're asking them those questions, and that thinking time is starting to decrease. So they're starting to be able to recall facts, or starting to say, hey, I've seen this before, you're not explicitly teaching this to me, but I think that I can solve this probability question based on what I know from looking at this fraction, or a fraction and a ratio. Hey, they're kind of the same because we're looking at comparing one to another. So we're just starting to see their math talk increase, which is important, and we're using a lot of those observations to go ahead and add value to the assessments that we're taking on their assessment pieces, whether it's how many ways, whether it's through Mathletics Live. We're just seeing that growth across the board.
Thanks very much. You know what, great answer. It was kind of what I was looking for, so thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
I have a quick one.
Go ahead.
Your two schools are geographically quite far apart. How did you come to work together on all of this?
We're only 7 weeks apart, so we gravitate towards each other in age, and I think we it's true. I also think what ends up helping is we kind of have shared Michelle between our two schools. So having the connection, Michelle had done several terms at Heartland Colony, fantastic teacher. I just didn't have a permanent position, and she was getting to that point that a permanent position was needed for her. And lo and behold, Kristen had a permanent position come up. So the connection through Michelle has definitely been huge. And geographically, while we're apart, our students' needs are very much the same in that we need math to be their focus. Both colonies are heavy in industry, so being heavy in industry, that math focus is very important to both communities.
Also, all of the teaching staff at Grove School is from Beausejour, so Heartland is actually closer for us to drive to than our own school.
And we like them.
Yep.
Anyone else? Trustee Smith?
What about the schools other than like math? Do the colonies like get together to do other things too, or?
We get together always on our 6 religious holidays throughout the year. We kind of change our focus from time to time, like it's not always math focused. This year we focused a lot on literacy, guided reading stuff, literacy centers.
Which has been very influential to kind of the program leaders on the literacy side when we asked for, hey, how can I teach this ELA block from K to 4? So I think it's helped them open their eyes a little bit too. We know Natalie is coming out to Heartland tomorrow to take a look and say, hey, how can we set up a language arts block in this vast 5-grade range of students, right? A lot of schools are used to the 2 to 3 range, and 5 usually isn't the norm. So they're kind of helping out with that. And then we are focusing a little bit more next year with the
Mama Tuisuin
document and making sure that we're doing some teachings in and around that with our staff to kind of work on our collaboration days with that as well.
And that involves all of 6 of the colonies within the division.
You talked about program leaders. How often are program leaders out at your schools?
Patty's out often, and we love having Patty out, and Patty can set up office in either one of our schools, and she is fantastic. The students know her, the students love her. And she is a massive resource both on the student side and on the staffing side for helping us with breakout boxes, with GPS courses, showing us different games that we can use to incorporate learning. It will be Natalie's first visit. Joanna has not come to the colonies, and Alan has not been to our colonies.
I think one of the things that I love about coming and chatting with you guys at a colony setting is you talk about the data, and your question, Paul, was around which data are you using and how do you know? You have this lovely opportunity of having all of your K-12 students together, and you really do see progress over time for each individual student. And some of that ability to customize and to say, we need to use this tool for this, is something that I know and I see, and I think you did a pretty good job, but I just wanted to say that out loud, is that you do custom assessments because you have those students all the time and you know their needs.
Trustee Nichol?
I know you didn't mention this, but how many credits do the grade 11 and 12s take through the apprentice program, or do you still have apprentice program both your colonies?
At Growth School, they do all 8 credits, so 880 hours of apprenticeship.
And it's the same for Heartland. They all do 880 hours of apprenticeship through their various industries.
Well, thank you, ladies, on behalf of the school board for coming out here and spending a little bit of time on a hot evening, but we appreciate it. We appreciate finding out more about your schools. We've had a chance to visit one of your schools. Hopefully we'll get a chance to visit out at Gross in the next year. But thanks very much for coming out. We appreciate you sharing how the students are doing academically. Have a good one. And of course you can stay if you want, but yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the minutes of May 16th of our regular board meeting. Be it resolved, the board adopt the regular board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Rowan, seconded by Trustee Boyton. Any questions to it? Hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you. Kath, Superintendent's report.
Going to entertain you for a little while because as I clicked in the thumb drive, I logged myself out of the meeting, so I'm just going to get right back in here. I know that I have included for you the graduation dates, so those are graduation dates and times that you should have in front of you. We also publish them in the newspaper, so anybody who's wanting to attend our graduations, I know that those are there. And then the rest of it is coming up. Oh, I got it here. I think I'm good. Thank you. We also have our long service and retirement celebration this coming Thursday at the Broken Head River Community Hall. So we're looking forward to having our trustees out to recognize 29 staff members being recognized for long service and 32 who are retiring from our division. It's a lovely evening and we're looking forward to being able to celebrate that with folks. Again, graduation dates and times for the Sunrise Schools are listed here, and we'll have an article in the paper identifying that as well. One of the things, again, we talked about, this is the coming up on the close of your first term. One of the standing practices in Sunrise School Division is that we have early dismissal on the last day of school. So our educational assistants' last day and our students' last day is June 29th. They will be dismissed an hour early. Yay, summer. And then everybody else who works on Friday the 30th will get dismissed an hour early on that day there. I think that we've alluded to the fact in a couple of our conversations about how extremely busy June is for staff and students and families, and there is no lack of activities that are on the go. It is a really large thank you to the staff who put in extra time. That's not part of their job to do a lot of the extracurricular activities or the field trips or the events. That's something they choose to do, and they work tirelessly to make those a super fun time for kids. And again, I don't think that happens without the support of parents and guardians, keeping track of what the heck's going on and also getting your children to and from all of those activities. So it is a village raising the child, and we do need to recognize there's a lot of things on the go. I also want to loud and proud say a final thank you to our substitute and casual employees. It would be extremely simple for them to say, hot diggity, this is great weather, and I feel like I'm going to hang by the pool or go get a Slurpee or shop at a nice cool mall or whatever that might be, but we have a ton of really dedicated substitutes and casual employees who are sticking it out with us and who are in classrooms. We have a lot of teachers away doing field trips and a lot of people doing different activities, and we are still holding it together with our substitute pool. So a super huge shout out to our subs that are rocking it in this community. Questions?
Thanks, Kath. Any questions for Kathy? Comments? Thanks, Kath, for sharing that information. For any of the new trustees, grad responsibilities, did you want to comment on anything, if they have any, that kind of stuff?
Sure. Your principals will be in touch with you about whether or not you are there and will be introduced, and you'll be clapping and cheering for your class of 2023. You may be presenting a medal or you may be bringing greetings. So just before you head to a grad, make sure you have touched base with your administrator to make sure you know what that role is that they have for you.
Yeah, so if you show up at a grad and say, oh, I didn't know I was going to go ahead and say something, there's potentially a good chance for you to go ahead and do that. So make sure that you're well aware. And if you want, there's, you know what, Dawn's done it lots, Lorraine's done it lots, I've done it. So do you know what, if you want to get some comments about what we would go ahead and do at greetings or those kind of things, just give us a shout and we'll help you out through that. We have our draft reporting schedule. It's there for information. Reminder that if we want to change from the draft reporting schedule from Kathy, we need to go ahead and make that decision and discuss it. Otherwise, that's there. Particularly about the programs. Do you know what she's got down there about potential programs for us to get some feedback on? Reminder that we have an arts review that's coming to us next board meeting. What kind of review and what kind of information are we being back about some of our programs? Questions on any of that? Okay. Jody, Secretary Treasurer's report.
I'll make my summary kind of short and sweet, noticing that the agenda might be quite long. I would love to talk about how great our operations departments are really working with the schools to try and get all the supplies in by June 30th and meet all our budget deadlines. But everything is reflected in the report. What I do want to talk about is the finance department gained a new finance manager on May 29th. Wayne Ledman is his name, and he is a CPA. His background is teaching, and he also was an airplane mechanic, which makes him a well-rounded person for the position, very experienced and knowledgeable. And it's been wonderful having him in the office and teaching him all the things we do to keep schools not entertained, but keeping schools on track, letting them know where their budgets are. And he's just learning what year end's going to look like in the next coming weeks. So, yeah.
Anything for Jody? So it's interesting, Valley Fiber. We've been talking about Valley Fiber coming through, and that's somebody that we've jumped on board with. So now we're going to be lightning speed in our schools. All right, thanks, Jody. So board business. There's probably only 27 items on board business, so let's get through some of them. Some of them are easy. So call Powerview School. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the grade Powerview School grade 5-6 trip to Masquaw Projects, Pine Falls, June 15th and 16th, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Dent, seconded by Trustee Smith. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you. I had a nervous teacher call me and I wanted to make sure that that was going on. So thank you for going ahead and doing that. And hopefully that teacher is watching and so that they know. We have a Powerview School canoe trip to the Masquaw Project 8.2 for September 14th and 15th. So be it resolved, the board approve in principle the grade 9 canoe trip to the Masquaw Project for September 14th, 15th, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Moved by Trustee Nickel, seconded by Trustee Rowan. Questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 9-0, thank you. We have Edward Schreier, so be it resolved that the board approve in principle Edward Schreier grade 9 to 12 high school hockey team trip to Montreal November the 29th to December the 4th, subject to superintendent's final approval. If it means that they get better than Parvy School, let's vote this down, so that's not a very good thing to do. No, just kidding. Trustee Smith, moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Nicol. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 9-0, thank you. 8.4 is the grade 7-8 assessment data. Kathy.
So again, this is a reminder that we do provincial assessments at grade 3-4. You would have seen that report. We have in the past had grade 12 exams. The province is bringing back grade 12 exams next year and is also embarking on grade 10 exams. This grade 7 and 8 is the other piece of what the provincial assessment is. I'm going to grab a couple of quick highlights from here, and I'm going to show you the places and spaces that are your meat and potatoes of this report. It is around English programming in grade 8. It is around English skills in grade 8 and around math skills in grade 7. We do the assessment in the English program, and we also do the assessment in the French program. When we talk numeracy, it is just numeracy in the English program, numeracy in the French immersion program. When we talk in grade 8 about the English and the reading comprehension and the writing skills, our French immersion students do an assessment for their English skills as well as their French skills. So our French immersion students in grade 8 have that double whammy of how is their reading and writing in English as well as how is their reading and writing in French. The important stuff that you want to make sure that you're looking at, this will kind of give you a look at what this report entails, and it talks a little bit about who's getting assessed for where. But then this page number 4 is where you really want to pay attention to. So if I take a look at our English program numeracy results for Sunrise, our students are above provincial results except when they're using number patterns, but a noticeable improvement in the area has the gap much closer. So when you get to the graphs, you will see that that bar has gotten way bigger in that area, which means that our schools have been focusing pretty intently on that. Students' results for reading and writing in English are slightly below those of the province, but we have a way bigger number of students approaching the expectations than the province, which means that we're kind of focusing on getting those kids moving along and making progress. I anticipate that that will mean we have students scoring higher than the province as we go through. It's pretty neat to see that the use of grammatical conventions is high, and we're kind of ahead of everywhere in that. With French immersion, it is a bit of a under the provincial results, and I think that that's a piece of our language program taking a hit during the pandemic. And no matter how we try that, when we don't have the opportunity to be working in groups and to be using our language and conversing with one another, whether that's doing word problems or whether that's doing reading comprehension or talking about a story, it becomes really, really difficult. So we're still kind of behind the bump here with how do we make sure that we are getting a little bit closer and we have some pieces in place in terms of what we're doing to make sure that we address that. All of our staff are doing some training on l'approche intégrée, and that is a way of teaching language that should help some of those students overcome that. There is nothing in here that would say, oh my goodness, we are suffering greatly, because when I take a look at this sentence here, the proportion of students meeting expectations is smaller than the proportion of students approaching expectations. But when I take both of those things, we're right on par with where the province is. So we are really working on that. How do we get all of the kids meeting the expectations, but we don't have students who are not meeting the expectations. They're just kind of well on their way to getting there. This is the important piece that we need to be looking at. The rest of the report will have a ton of graphs and numbers for all of you to look at. You can look at the data from 2018 all the way through to 2023. It will give you a lovely little key for the D for divisional and P for provincial. It's got some beautiful colors for what all the outcomes are. And so this would be a typical report that we would do for our provincial assessment so that you can look at the raw data as well. Last important piece. This is a divisional outlook that will show you what are we doing for this many students, 332 grade 7 students. Each school also looks at their data relevant to just their school. And that's pretty important for them to be looking at because they're the ones who are going to make the large-scale changes for kids right in the classroom. They do this assessment in January, so this information was done in January and the province just rolled it out to us in May. It's a January assessment. hope that's a good enough synopsis of what you've got in front of you, and I'm not going to walk you through all the graphs.
Thanks, Kath. Any questions for Kathy? Trustee Dent?
My light went green for a second there. I've never seen that before. It's just a quick one when we are looking at French immersion programming comparisons within the province. Are we comparing dual track schools to dual track schools, or are they being the dual track schools being compared to immersion schools?
I think that the schools are being compared regardless of whether they are dual track or immersion. They aren't being compared to schools that are Français schools. So a school where we have, like the DSFM has Francophone families who speak there. I don't think that it's separated into FL 1 and 2. I think that they're all combined in here, but I can definitely make sure and find that out.
Anyone else? So thanks, Kathy. I did ask Kathy to make sure we put down a summary, certainly, of where it is and some of the commentary from her about where we are. Of course, we all, you know what, when we take a look at the English program and we hear about that we're above provincial average, you know what, I know that Don over there is kind of like, you know, got a big smile on his face as to where those things are going. I think that when we're below the provincial average, we kind of, and Kathy, you've done some great explaining, but also the other thing is for the schools, okay, so if we're below, what are we doing about it? So what's the work that we need to do? Kathy, you've addressed some of the stuff that we're looking at, the work that we're going ahead and doing, so good to see. Any else comments? Okay, thanks, Kath. We have board reports, 23-24. Go ahead.
I think this is what you alluded to earlier, Paul, was this is sort of your draft board meeting report. So we've sort of mapped out what it is we plan to bring for next year. We've incorporated some of the strategic plan things, so we've added some things. We've incorporated some of the recommendations from program review, so you'll see a talent development data report in here. But I think that one of the things that we talked about when we came up with this was it needs to be fluid. Like if we see that we have a need for something, it needs to be fluid, but at the same time, there's a ton that goes on, and so we want to get as much advance notice as we can to get you really good information. So it was to discuss if there's anything you wanted to add to this.
So, Kath, take us through, as we're doing this, so of the reports, can you go to the next page, Kath? So on the box, can you just enlarge that so the box in the top left talks about we've had an immersion review on June the 7th, library review on the 21st, talent development on the 16th, we have an arts education on the June 20th, and I guess the question is that if we want to look at, there's a number of other things that are underneath there, if we're asking that we want to get some information from Kathy, and let's just say apprenticeship program. We want a review of our apprenticeship program. I'm not saying that that's the case, but we need to go ahead and give that kind of direction. And that direction, the latest can be is the last week in June for us to go ahead and do that. So, Trustee Smith.
This, for the reports, is the programming, the specialty programming, and each school going to be on there now?
What you're asking for, I think, Alicia, is that have we listed all the different programs that are running at each of the schools? I know you've talked about that. I don't know if we have, go ahead.
So one of the talent development data reviews would be exactly that, some of the programming that we do, and so we've kind of grabbed this talent development data report, and again, whether that is that needs to happen a little bit more frequently, we've kind of put it here at the end, but we could absolutely say, hey, let's bring some quarterly reports in there if we want it more frequently. This, I think, is the innovative programming that you're thinking about.
So I guess I'm not clear, Kath, what you said, because I think that, Alicia, your question was, what you were looking for was, what are some of the different programs that we run at Anola School compared, and I'm not comparing to anybody, but what are the other programs that are running at a different school, is that right? It's kind of like an inventory is what you were talking about. Okay, so Kath, that could just be a list of stuff. I'm not sure that she's looking for an evaluation of all that. You're just looking for an inventory of it, right? Okay.
Yes, we can structure that report in a certain way. If it was just talent development, you might have something that a school is running that's a specialty program that is not connected to talent development. So if you wanted that, I could make part of the talent development report, this is talent development directed involved, and these other things are going on, because I would be asking the schools that anyways. So that could be done that way.
I think though that my understanding was is that we were looking for, do you know what, Dugald Schools runs esports, and do you know what, there are a number of schools that are now doing a number of different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be connected to talent development, but I think that it's part of what Alicia, I think, was asking, and what kind of has got me talking now is, what are all the different schools? And some schools may have, you know, here's esports and here's what we're doing here. What's a kind of an inventory are going on in our schools?
How often do we want to see that? Because we'll add that in here. And how often do we want to have a report?
I think that it's just once a year, whether it's at the end of the year or whatever, is that here's what are some of the things that are going on, and it's really about an inventory. Alicia, go ahead.
Does it change throughout the year, or is it kind of, it does? Okay, then probably more often then.
Melissa?
It might be nice on occasion too to get somebody in to talk about some of those programs because they've got a lot of passion for what they're bringing to the table.
So remember, when we have schools come and present, we're asking them, or I would say our last board was asking them to come in and present on their goals. If we want schools to come in and present on something else, then we need to make that decision as to where it is. And you know, they're already in here and they're presenting and they're taking 15, 20 minutes. If we want to pass them to present on something else, then let's decide as to what it is. We don't have to do that today, but we would have to, because then Kathy needs to start preparing them that if we're going to do something different, then we would go ahead and do that. Absolutely. Good point. So Kath, good enough? Okay. Anything else then from this report? So Kathy, the other thing then, have you recommended, so you've got recommended the alternative program in phys ed, is that what you're recommending for next year because they're highlighted?
Yeah, so we've kind of looked at that and said, hey, these are the ones that we think probably need to have the next review. We've got personnel and people who are set to do those reviews over the next year. So those would be the ones that I would say I would love to sink our teeth into. We do start in September, so it's a pretty intensive process. And we meet and we do surveys and we gather information. And so I don't want to start down a path if we're going to say, nope, we want to do something differently.
So it's the direction. So as of right now, she's suggesting that. If we want to say, hey, no, we want to know about science or we want to know about whatever, then let's just give some direction. So it's something for us to think about. I'm going to come back next meeting for us to go ahead and say, if there's something different, then let's go ahead and do that. Fair enough? Okay. Thanks, Kath. And again, what it is, we'd be looking for a motion to put it in, we would look for a motion so that it's just very clearly what we're asking to go ahead and do. Expression of interest for childcare at Enola and Centennial. That's you, Jody?
Yeah, I prepared a report to, in summary, request board support to move or submit an expression of interest to proceed to the next level to the government where they could consider putting daycare at Enola School. We don't currently have a child care facility at that location. There are child care facilities around Enola. When reaching out to the Springfield Learning Center, there is a very long wait list. Centennial School, we have a current child care facility in the school, and this would be just an expansion with bringing in a portable to or an RTM that's already pre-made and moving it on site. How we arrived at this was in early 2023, the province issued an expression of interest document to know which school divisions would have spare school space or spare land where a child care facility could be located. After a quick discussion between superintendent and the facilities manager, we looked at, because we know the turnover was quite quick, I think it was a matter of 2 months to have the application completed with all the parties involved agreeing to it. It was a quick turnover, so we had to make sure that we already had adequate surplus of land, that there is either a daycare agreement already in place or could be created in a short turnaround time, and that we wanted to make sure that there are families on the waiting list already or a daycare nearby. So those are the 3 priorities where we reached out to some of the schools. There were 4 schools that we reached out to immediately: Powerview, Gillis, Anola, and Centennial. They all kind of checked our boxes as to what we can consider. There were a couple of schools that we did consider, but we recognized Beausejour Early Years, even though there is a huge need. There's a long wait list for that location, and it would be greatly needed for another child care facility in Beausejour, but there was no space on the school facility. We're looking at already bringing in portables. Putting in another child care facility would just eat up the playground space they already have. And with the portables coming, or one portable coming, and possibly more in the future, it would eat up that playground space even more. But they are not off our consideration list should this opportunity come up. Oakbank, the Oakbank complex area, that again, Oakbank is in dire need to have a child care facility. I know Oakbank Kids Corner has reached out in consideration. The challenge we had was the Oakbank Playground Committee has gone so far down their process of creating a playground and landscape and development, and with their drawings and their fundraising campaign, I would hate to put a child care facility where they're still campaigning on that. We are moving a portable to Oakbank Elementary, so that will again eat up their playground space. So that was another concern that we had, with no adequate space for parking or additional facility for Oakbank, the Oakbank area. Again, I think in discussion with maybe the RMS Springfield to let them know that should there be an opportunity that they could consider assisting us in finding adequate land, that would be ideal. Edward Schreyer School, again, we were looking at the space. There's not enough adequate space because the grounds are used by the sports community on a regular basis, and we recognize that is a big need as well. Dugald Community, or Dugald School, additional portables are coming. We do recognize that there's always need for a child care facility in Dugald. It's a growing community as well, but again, we didn't have adequate space. Whitemouth, there is a child care facility already being constructed beside it on RM of Whitemouth land, so we didn't want to start a competition. So we recognize that facility will be utilized, and we didn't want to kind of encroach on their process. After that, we had some discussion with the Lactabani Child Care Center. They agreed that they would like to proceed. There is a long waiting list. They have a lot of families on there, as well as Anola. So with that being said, we submitted recommendation that these were the 2 sites, just to hear the feedback from the province. They accepted it without any further questions. They did want to know if we have board support, and that's where we're at tonight, to see if the board is interested to proceed further with this project, or both projects.
Thanks, Jody. Any questions? Oh. Okay. So be it resolved that the board approve the addition of child care facilities at Anola School and Centennial School as per the school-based child care center expansion project expression of interest. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Boytson. Questions to it? Go ahead, Trustee Harris.
So I think the idea of this is that the division is providing the space, and that's it. The province is doing all the funding, the staffing, or are we doing staff?
So that's part of the agreement with the child care facilities. So we provide the land, the province pays for the building to be constructed, the site prep, and then the lease agreement with the child care facility. So somebody like Lactabani Child Care Center, they would hire additional staff and look after the internal operations of that facility. We will work with them. It'll be similar to the agreement that we have with Dugald, where if there is structural support that needs to be done, that's where the province will have to step in. But maintaining the internal maintenance, if painting needs to be done, that would be all on the child care center. We would not be looking at collecting a monthly fee for maintenance. That would be up to them. So there would be a very similar agreement that we have with the Dugald Child Care Center.
So from the two maps that I saw, it appears that the site is, the building they're bringing in is not attached to our schools in any way. Right.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that it's an important thing that this isn't just a school division venture. The expression of interest was also sent out to rural municipalities and towns because they may have more land than schools. It was submitted to school divisions as well, but it is out to municipal and local governments to be able to put an expression of interest forward for their communities. So if any of our RMs or towns are listening as well, they would have an opportunity to do expressions of interest for their communities. These are places where we had space.
Are there other comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Past 9, nothing, thank you. Electoral ward boundary update and info. So you've got the information that's on there. Who wants to roll with this one? Go ahead.
Pop everything back up. So from our last meeting on May 16th, there was a couple questions. Share my screen. There we go. There was a couple questions on number of voters in each ward. There was a question of how many days or what's the timeline, when's the latest that we can complete it by. So we went through some of those considerations. So from our last meeting on May 16th, we talked about what are our options, how long will it take, things like that. So we do know if we contract out, there's a heavy detailed process that Way to Go Consulting would do, communicate with the board, look at different options for cutting the boundary lines and propose about 2 or 3 options. That was the higher cost of the process. The other one was landmark planning. They would have taken more of a consideration of the growing area and look at reviewing the ward boundaries there as well. So that would include Dugald and Oakbank and the RM of Broken Head in the town of Beausejour. We would review those areas as well as any deviations from the 25% that you can be different from an evenly balanced ward voting approach. So those were the consultants. They still think it would be 2 to 3 months to get that job completed. Then there's the process of printing out maps and redoing all that stuff to inform the public where the lines are drawn. From our meeting then, from May 16th, we gathered the information of the number of voters. We also gathered the information of the timeline and the other proposal, I believe at the last meeting, it was talked about that Trustee Nicol brought forth a proposal in the last board, or during the last board gathering about board boundaries, and that was a discussion of just redrawing and moving St. Rita, and also moving, just trying to find that on my report, St. Rita and Seddon's Corner and Molson to be
reallocated into Ward 1. So it would affect Ward 2 and with the Onola ward and Ward 6R, a Broken Head ward. So that was the proposed redrawing to address Ward 1's difference in numbers of voters. So there was several options proposed. At this time, the recommendation is just reviewing if the board wishes to do a very thorough review. Way to Go Consulting would do that, but we would have to push that into another budget year. That would take about $27,000 to do. With that consideration, there's not enough room in our budget for 23-24 to accommodate that. We would have to budget and move that and propose that to the following budget year. We do have, at the end of the day, we need to have our ward boundaries completed should we wish to review. They have to be completed 180 days before the election. So that puts us into about the spring of 2026 is when it has to be done. So if we start at the year of 2024, and if we want to take our time, 6 to 12 months, depending on how long people want to review it, print the maps, get everybody educated to know what the new boundaries are, that would be still an adequate time. It would be completed by 2025.
Thanks, Jody. I'm going to roundtable or people comments as to where you are, thoughts. Trustee Boyton.
Just a question, what would the impact of the ward boundary change have on the catchment area? So for example, if St. Rita was removed from Enola, some of those kids presently would go to Enola School and maybe even go to Murdoch right now or Pet. Would that change anything for them?
Yeah, the electoral ward boundaries are completely different from the regular school boundaries and catchment. So those are two separate things. And I think it's really important for the education piece when it comes to election time. Your student might attend Enola, but you might be voting for your Broken Head counselor. So there are things that folks need to be aware of. There's also the RMS Springfield has their ward boundaries, and Sunrise has ward boundaries, and you might be voting for a Ward 4 or a Ward 2, depending on where you're living, and that's confusing for our taxpayers of Sunrise. So I think an education piece when it comes to going to the polls is very important, and having the lines clearly laid out. Even if we redraw one ward, it'll have an impact.
So Lorraine, really good question. It has no effect about where kids are going to school. Those boundaries are not what we're doing with regard to voting. The school boundaries are not being changed. What the boundaries are is just basically electoral boundaries. Okay. Others? Comments? Suggestions? Who wants to? Trustee Nicol.
Well, I suggest that we wait until after October the 23rd election, so we get correct figures at least, and then maybe we can make some decision then, because we've got lots of time. Between now and 26 is lots of time.
Anyone else? So we're going to wait.
I think that part of what I heard Jody say was that whether you want to do this right now or not, you have to wait till your next budget year anyways. So I think when you start to do your budget planning in November, to make sure that this is a flagged item for you to discuss as an item to budget for. And then you may make your decision about whether you want to use those funds for this or not. But right now the funds aren't there in your budget to do it anyways.
So I think, Trustee Reed?
I don't know, I'm just kind of wondering if we're not rushing into this, or apparently there are repercussions and everything, so should we be studying them more than we have, or are we, I don't know, I'd like to see a little more discussion on this, or just look into the facts a little more.
So Russ, I think what Trustee Nicol had brought up is that no decision needs to be we don't have to make a decision. There was a suggestion by Trustee Nicol is that to go ahead and wait until the election to get more accurate numbers. So I don't know if you put it back up there, Jody. So where Jody had up here, Russ, with regard to what actual size of the wards are, we don't have the exact numbers because for the trustees, there weren't actual elections for some of the wards. Some got in by acclamation, so we don't have the exact numbers. Dawn's suggesting is that we'll get better numbers after the election, the provincial election that's coming up, and then make a decision. Kathy also said is that if we're going to go ahead and make a decision and want to spend some money, we can go ahead and put it into a budget for a budget when we start doing budgets in November and December. So there's no rush about trying to make that decision right now. Melissa and then Kathy.
I tend to agree with Dawn on this one. I think 30,000, I mean, it's 27,000 is a lot of money to spend when we might have a better idea after the election. So I think that waiting until after our election is probably going to be the better option for us to make at this point.
Kath?
Just a comment that yeah, I agree that those numbers will come in and they'll be more clear. Trustees aren't doing the work of redrawing electoral boundaries, though. That would be work that you would need to be giving to someone else. You need to not be involved in any way, shape, or form in terms of drawing lines of your electoral boundaries as elected people.
I just want to draw it around my friend's house and to get a lot of votes is kind of what it is. So I know I'm saying this out loud and stuff, but yes, that's exactly what she's going ahead and talking about. So I think that our heads are nodding around the table, that we're good, kind of what Dawn and Melissa have decided to say is that we'll wait until we get some other numbers. If we want to collect some more information, we can certainly go ahead and do that. Did you want to say something, Diane?
I was just going to echo what Kathy's saying. We can't make that decision for this budget year anyway, so we should table that for our budget meetings in, I guess, early 2024. And but to be mindful that the quote may have expired by that time on this work, and the expense could be additionally more, but I think our hands are tied anyway.
No doubt it's going to cost us more money in another 8 months, whatever it is. Okay, it looks like we have that, we're good? All around tables, looks like I got head nods? Okay, so we're going to basically table it until after the election, and we'll revisit it. So let's put that certainly for us to go ahead and do that. Monthly enrollment report, you have that for information. Any questions on that? Kinsman agreement reports, is this you, Kath? Lars?
The kinship agreements, there was a question as it came up in a previous meeting about some more information on this and how it might impact schools. So you have a pretty brief report that just gives some of the legislative foundation for why, and I've highlighted some areas in that legislation that's what the impact on schools would be. And essentially, we have agreements that we're used to getting from Child and Family Services. The legislation about this indicates that no matter who's making it, it has to follow some certain guidelines, so that would be consistent. The only way that there are possible impacts on schools is that it looks as though this process would perhaps allow more variety in what the roles are described for the caregivers and the support workers and that sort of thing. But we haven't had a lot of them, so it may not be much impact at all. We have gone over this with schools at an operational meeting very briefly, and we're preparing a document to give to them that outlines, hey, if you get these, look out for these things, give me a call. And then that's kind of where we're at with that.
Thanks, Lars, for that. Lars, is there a potential then for some of our schools then now they're, as opposed to just going to that they're going to a number of different kinsmen or kinship groups?
Yeah, they would come to us. So I put in information there about, these are the numbers of groups in Manitoba. That doesn't mean they're all going to have their own kinship agreements. That's only if they decide to go that route. So those are the general numbers of what we have. That doesn't mean that they're all going to have their own different kinship agreements, and they have to follow a standard format anyways.
So basically schools though will come to you and then you'll guide them from where we're going? Okay. Anyone else? Questions? Okay. Sorry, I lost my train of thought when I saw that popcorn walking by, so there you go. We have Art Speak sessions, so Kath, did you want to speak to that, or that's information? It's on your calendars, mark your calendars certainly for the Art Speak sessions that are there. 8.10, carryover request, 8.11. Jody?
I'll try and make this report less winded, I guess. But I want to identify that schools have been very diligent on spending their budgets allocated to them. So I'm happy to report, I think I'm happy to report, that we're only carrying over, or a request to carry over, $35,825. The prior year we were requesting about $70,000. So this request is anything above their 3% allocation amount. So that's where we're arriving at $35,000. The reports are attached are for items that they see the need that they could utilize for. And I should note, Trustee Boytson caught a mathematical calculation. It reflected that OBE is requesting 50 days when the mathematics show that it should have been 70. The difference of 20 days is going to be, or has been earmarked by other sources of funds within the budget the school will have next year. So in total, they will need about 70 sub-days, but they'll utilize 50 out of their carryover request.
Any questions on this? Okay. So, be it resolved that the board approve the request to carry over surplus funds to the 2023-24 in the amount of $35,825. Didn't move in a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nichols, seconded by Trustee Rowland. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. What did you guys do? Oh. All right, pass. Thanks very much. That was easy. Valley Fiber report. Who's that? Jody?
So the Valley Fiber report, I think the board has asked to know what the process is or the progress is on Valley Fiber. We have reached out to Valley Fiber. Our MTS, our Bell MTS, is our current provider. With Valley Fiber coming to the area, we were looking at already trying to find other sources to connect our Centennial School, Powerview School, and Lactabani School to another internet provider. We were connected with Manitoba Hydro, but we were given notice that as of June 1st, but they decided to move it to June 30th. That will be our official cutoff date. They will no longer be providing us internet services through the hydro fiber connection. So that caused our ICT department to look into what other options we can have. So Valley Fiber came with the most reasonable price and reliable service. So with that being said, we also inquired what the cost is for our other sites. So in the report here, it identifies approximately our connection times and our data bandwidth, I guess, services. So 1G being really fast. Those will be our sites for SBC and ESS, as well as Oakbank Elementary. So if anybody has other questions, feel free to ask.
Thanks, Jody. Anyone? Okay, let's move on. Thanks for that good lightning speed is from what I hear from Valley Fiber. Lightning.
I had a question.
Okay, go. Oh, good. We're sharing popcorn. There we go.
I didn't hear any of that report. I was so busy with an errand. I believe our next meeting we have the IT person, Gord, here. the road. He's farther down the other direction. Will he be speaking to this at that time? Do you know?
He'll talk a little bit about our internet and looking even at our phone system as well. And there's quite a few IT topics on this agenda, and he'll even be able to explain what we're even doing with our new computer tender.
Thanks. I think our esports at Dugald will have been waiting for something like this, the better internet. I think they've won big time, didn't they, already with slow internet? Now they're going to win even better with faster internet. So.
I just had a question. Does this affect the families at home too? Like I know like this like Hydro, I guess. I don't know what the agreement was or how that went away. But is this fiber fancy internet stuff going to be available to people at home too? Or is it, I don't know, is this a new company? I don't know anything about it, sorry.
So Valley Fiber, in the report identifies that they were awarded a significant grant to provide fiber optic cabling throughout Manitoba. So they are in the process of rolling out their fiber optic network throughout the province of Manitoba. So the areas of Lac Du Bonnet, Powerview, they are reaching as far rural areas as they can because they've been awarded this grant, which the cost to implement fiber optic cabling is quite a lot. Over the last summer, for probably the last 2 summers, you can see usually it's Valley Fiber equipment and crews out there putting the cabling or the fiber optics out there. So this is going to be available to people of the area. It is subject to the ground conditions. They advise that in the RM of Springfield, some of the land is very rocky and difficult to, I guess, tunnel in or plumb in the cable. And other areas, the ground's softer and easier to push through. So there are some challenges for the company, but they've identified as they are going through and trying to lay out the cabling as best they can.
I'm not going to have to lean out of my house and like turn it, no. Anyone else? Thanks, Jody, Valley Fiber. We have 8:13, Craig School, that's you, Kat?
Yes, I'm pleased to say that we have been having a bit of a go-around. So trustees are saying, what can we do? School was saying, what can we do? Division was saying, what can we do? So we sat down and came together with a plan to send a monetary donation to Craig School for their hospitality. Again, equaling an amount that we would have had to pay in a hotel or for some of the food that we were purchased. So we are going to get that check out to Craig School. We've already been in contact, and they are very excited to have it into their account and will be able to tell us what they're spending it on. So thank you to local trustees, to the school. This is funds that we have in our divisional lines, so I just wanted to make a public announcement that that's what we're doing.
Great idea. Anybody want to comment? Trustee Harris?
When we first, certainly after this happened, we heard that the 2 schools really came together. Again, we're geographically distanced, but they came together, the students came together. Is there a follow-up to that as to the number of pen pals that have been formed, or how? Maybe it's all social media today. So they don't send a letter in the mail, a little card thanking them, and.
One of the tough things was the school actually wanted to personalize some of the things that they wanted to send, and then quickly came to the point that it's going to cost us more to ship things, and we'd much rather have the dollars going to Craig School so they can benefit from it. So they really struggled with that whole personal connection of we want to send something that is us and personal. The card and things that we'll send probably will be.
Anyone else? Nice job for everybody that got involved with that. Subdivision in the arm of Brokenhead, that's for information. Did you want to add anything at all, Jody?
I'll keep it short, but the idea is this subdivision could bring in a number of residential units
Right now they're requesting that it'll be seasonal, but at the same time the proposed land use is single-family residential, which results in potentially more students coming to our area. So again, this is an emphasis to the RM of Broken Head that if they are approving residential properties, that is an impact to potentially a school expansion and us requiring financial dollars to assist us with school expansion.
And thanks, Jody. And our board did meet with the Arm of Broken Head last week, and certainly talked a little bit about this, and talked about the fact as that the areas in Broken Head that's growing, about us needing or looking for either land or 10% because of some of the things that are going on. We don't want to get landlocked, and whether it's fences or those kind of things that we're looking at building. So we did meet with them and give them a heads up, so thanks for that. Anyone else want to comment? All right, so viewing long service and retirement awards. So I'm going to read the motion. Be it resolved, the board approved Don Nickel to view the long service and retirement ceremony when it becomes available to view online. I need a mover and a seconder, and then Don will give you an opportunity. Moved by Trustee Smith, seconded by Trustee Rowland. Don, did you want to comment at all?
Well, I'm just being proactive because in order to, according to identity bylaw, you have to have approval for any butchel PD. So, and that's why I made the request.
Thanks. Any questions? Trustee Dent.
So I'm just wondering, the motion says when it's available online, so it's not going to be live and there's no going to be personal interaction. Is that correct?
Any other questions? Trustee Boyton?
So if this motion didn't go through, was it going to be filmed anyways? Was it going to be, videotaped anyways? Or is that going to be a special thing to accommodate this request?
So the Divisional Long Service and Retirement Ceremony, this is one of those pieces that we were going to keep from the pandemic. So last 2 years in the pandemic, we pre-recorded the entire event and we just hit live and put the recording out at a certain time. Because the event itself is live, we're going to record the live event, and 24 hours later or 48 hours later, we're going to put that recording on. It depends how long it takes us to edit some things out or to, put the final video together. It will be available online. It won't be live time. It won't be live streamed. Having people sit and watch us eat dinner, I think, is not really good audience feedback. But the event will be recorded and it will be put on the website for everybody to view. I think that's different than Don's request about asking to have this approved as a PD event, I think.
Questions from anyone else? Yep, Trustee Rowland.
I guess just for clarification, Don, how would you describe this as personal development?
Well, if I was able to attend, I think that's a chance to be able to see the workings of the trusts and the teachers and everything else. And according to the identity bylaw, any virtual event, that doesn't matter whether it's PD or whatever it is, any virtual event has to be approved by the board. Otherwise, what I was looking at is if I didn't want Jody to make the decision, then she says yes or no, and if she said no, that means I would then go to the board and ask for a reconsideration. So I was just trying to do some proactive planning, that's all.
So just for clarification on, this is a little bit of a different type of request that I'm interpreting. So you're not able to attend a special event for the division, and you would like to have approval to rewatch the video at a later time?
That's right.
And to be compensated for that time?
That's correct, according to the NB bylaw.
Anyone else? Trustee Harris?
So just for clarification, so we are entitled to claim attending in person this event this Thursday if we so wish to do so?
Correct. So what Don's request is that he cannot attend in person, and he wants to know by attending, watching it video, would we consider that about him being then in person and him be able to collect the indemnity bylaw to it? Let's be honest, that's exactly what he's looking at going ahead and doing. And so that's the request that's on the table. Any other discussion? Okay, Trustee Rowan?
Just on further comment about Kathy's comment. When we attend in person, it's going to be an evening affair, but you're going to be editing down the video to the simple awards part of it?
We've actually got some students from our high schools coming to do the recording. So they wanted to be able to take the raw footage from the evening and put it together and set some of the pieces to music or do a montage and those kinds of things. I'm also wanting a little bit of a censor button because we're going to have live people who are making comments who may or may not remember that they are being live streamed out there. And I think that that's an important piece for us. So when we put together the event in the last couple of years, all of the pre-recorded speeches we saw ahead of time and we knew exactly what was being put up on the website under the Sunrise School Division. What's that? I have no idea because I have no idea how long the event's going to be. Good couple of hours? 2?
And you know what, absolutely, if we're going to put something on our website, we want to make sure that we're monitoring what's going on our website because so you just don't have Robin Harris in the background saying something. Anyways, it's a good, that's a very smart thing for us to go ahead and do, and we would always go ahead and do that. Any other questions? Okay, then we'll vote. So it was defeated. I am at ArtSpeak, Valley Fiber, Divisional Phone System. Thank you, 816. Jody, very quickly. So I'm going to put it on the table. Be it resolved that the board approve the Clear Concepts Rogers be awarded the request for proposals Division Phone System. I need a mover and a seconder. That's the motion. Trustee Rowan, Trustee Rowland. All right, so go ahead, Jody. You've got 20 seconds.
Basically, we're looking at switching over to a different product. Bell MTS, our current phone provider, is not providing us the same program that we currently use. The option, the option that they are proposing is it's a lot more expensive. It would still meet our needs, but it's more expensive. So ICT pursued a couple of vendors, reached out with requests for proposals and requests for quotes, and the selection after a review was Rogers and Clear Concepts.
Any questions? Trustee Smith?
So this is the phone system for, like, would the hardware itself change? Like, do we have any, like, agreements that we're stuck in for hardware, nothing like that?
Nope, so our lease is coming up this summer. So our phone, the handsets that we call them, those will all be replaced. They're like computers now. They don't have the same connections as the old telephones. They have hardware, motherboards, things like that inside of them that do wear down, and some are needing replacement. They are up at the 5-year lease renewal, so there is no impact if we go and replace all of them. Our lease payments would be very similar to what we have in our budget already for the existing lease that we've had, and our monthly costs will be much less than what the proposed product that Bell MTS was providing.
Alicia, these are not our mobile phones. These are all of our hard phones in our schools and our offices. Okay. Trustee Rowland?
So these would be run off the internet? And if so, what is the plan for when the internet's down if we need to get a hold of somebody within one of our buildings?
There are hardwired phones in some, at every site for emergency backup for those purposes. And we also have custodians and staff with cell phones as well, paid cell phones if we need, if it goes down. But again, we are switching over to a different internet provider as well, with new cabling and resources. So the idea, if it is off of the internet, but we are looking at a good resource. What they've identified is if a system's down, there's about a 4-hour turnaround, if or sooner. They're in their agreement, they've talked about how fast they can assist us. Clear Concepts is pretty reliable when it comes to this. They have a number of companies that they provide this service with, and the references were really, really well. They talked highly of Clear Concepts and the technical support, and if there is any issues with the system.
So in each of our schools, our administrators have an allowance for a cell phone. I think our custodians have an allowance for a cell phone, so there are a number of cell phones that are, go ahead.
We also have a hardwired landline in all of our buildings. So if we needed to call 911, we have a hard line in every one of our sites to do that. It rings with an awful ring with offers for cruises and lovely things all the time, but all of our sites have that hard line in them.
Trustee Smith?
I know this is a bit old school, but faxes use landlines. Is that going to be affected at all? Do we use fax machines in the school still?
There are fax machines that we do utilize. They are running through our printers, our multi-copier machines. So those devices will remain unchanged. There's nothing.
Anyone else? Good questions? Oh, Trustee Harris?
Where it says ICT obtained proposals, was that written proposals or did they meet in person with the different vendors?
It would definitely be a combination of both. They would receive their written proposal and then have those conversations with the sales individuals from Clear Concepts and have discussion with them, because those individuals would provide a proposal as to how to map it out, even because of the background of it. So it'll be a combination of both.
Trustee Smith?
Do the schools know anything about this potential change coming if it's approved? I'm just wondering. I know when you change out a secretary's phone system, that's a big change.
So we didn't want to propose anything should the board say no. We didn't want to get anybody too excited. If the board says no, leave it as is and figure it out as you go along. But ICT and myself, we have a memo ready to go to advise the schools what it's going to look like. We talked about what next steps are. The idea is it's going to work very similar to what the existing phones look like. It's just the background of how the phone calls are going out through a different, I am no IT expert, but it is a different back-end component. But you're still going to have a phone that looks like a phone, dial out, but there are individuals that have the option that they can dial out through Teams as well. And that's a neat feature that in the past, there's been folks that says, I wish I could have a phone, but now they can, as long as they have a headset connected to their computer, they can have those phone calls as well. So there's some options there.
How does this interact with our PA systems? Because don't they work through the phones right now or no?
That part I don't know. I'd have to follow up with the ICT department to see, but I think the idea is we didn't want to change or an impact to the level of service, so it should be very similar. I think all of our PAs are also hardwired in the building, so they're independent of the phone system.
Question. Anyone else? Okay, we'll vote. Past 9-0, thank you. So we're at 8:17, an RFP for the microcomputer equipment award recommendation. So be it resolved, the request for proposal 16-23 microcomputer equipment be awarded to GenX Solution. No. What is it? GenX, is that what it is? GenX Solutions for a period effective July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2027, with an option to extend for an additional 2 years. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Dent, seconded by Trustee Boytson. Comments or questions to it? Jody, did you want to comment anything? It's their information. Is there anything you want to add? You don't have to.
I think the report kind of
Yeah.
explains.
Any questions from anyone? Trustee Harris?
Is this a change of vendor from who we've been using in the past?
Correct. We're moving from Powerland with this recommendation to another vendor.
How long have we been using Powerland?
For probably over 7 years.
To me, this report looks very... Sorry, I was not online there. This report seems very short to me and not very detailed, and for a switch from a vendor who we've been using, and I presume very satisfactory for years, to go to someone else, I was surprised by this, quite frankly.
So what our purchasing manager and ICT department does is they issued an RFP, request for proposal, with request for quote. So what they do is they lay out a number of products with specs to be priced on, and that's really how we select our vendors, based on price through this process. And at the end of the day, the lowest bid, as well as consideration for level of service. There is a reference period where we follow up with references and things like that, but the recommendation at the end of the day would be this company.
Have we used GenX at all for anything else in the division?
No, not at this time, because we've been awarded Powerland all these years.
Do you know if other divisions have used GenX? I've never heard of them. I'm just...
Yeah, I don't, at this time, I don't have the references who they contacted. But yeah, I don't have it listed with other school divisions right now.
Trustee Nichol?
According to our purchase bylaw, we're supposed to be looking at local companies. Is this solution, Powerland, I know it's based in Winnipeg. Is this company based in Winnipeg? Or is it an international company?
Again, I'd have to follow up. I just trusted the purchasing manager who implements all the local purchasing policies on that. I can look into it and we can consider deferring this decision if there's further questions.
Trustee Smith?
Yeah, I think we may need a little bit more information on this. Is there a deadline we have to make this decision by? Because, yeah, I agree we need a bit more information for this decision.
So if we want to table it, what kind of information do we need? So what I'm asking trustees is that if we're going to ask for, if we're not prepared to vote, then what is the other information that we need? Trustee Nichol?
Well, the question I asked, so I'd like to know, and I'd like to know the terms too, like it says the tender price will not result in reduction of operation costs. Well, are we saving any money on tender? Like, if one is renting for $500 a year, the other one's renting $499 a year, and why did they pick the one over the other? I'd like to get more information.
One of the things that you're asking for is a comparison. Okay. Alicia? Looking about the comparison? Okay. Anyone else? Trustee Harris?
So I feel that, I think the division did due diligence on it and had proposals and all that. I just had some questions regarding it. I'll still vote in favor of it. I was just, it just seems like a short little report for a big decision changing from one vendor to another. But due diligence must have been done there by our staff, so thank you.
Okay, so I'm looking at 2 trustees would like to table it. Are the other trustees prepared to vote on it? Or do you want to table it? I guess the question before I go ahead and do that, by tabling it till next Tuesday, till our next meeting, Jody, is that a problem?
Yeah, well, what it does is this vendor will provide delivery of computers 4 to 6 weeks later after we order them. So it will push our arrival time of the computers by the early part of July. So it won't be arriving the first week of July. It'll probably midweek when we wanted to prep for site prep and transferring over the data and migration.
Okay. Sorry, Trustee Nicol.
Well, one thing I don't like is the fact that it was presented to us that we had to make a decision right away. I think that could have been my way of saying that you could have been thinking a little bit ahead of time. In the past, we've had some decisions that we are always underneath the gun, and I don't like it being underneath the gun that you're kind of saying, well, if you don't pass it now, the students are going to suffer because they're not going to get the equipment until September. That's what I'm hearing. And I'm just saying that in the future, I'd like to have something that, because this is quite a bit of money, and I'd like to have a little bit more time to think about it if the report is not adequate.
Okay, so I'm going to disagree a little bit with you, Don, because again, we did get the information on Friday, and if we wanted to get more information, you know what, we could have been sending something to Jody for her to bring more information for tonight. But if the board wants to table it, I'm totally fine with that as well. But remember, these normally come this way. I think that if you're looking for more information, we could have asked ahead of time, or we can table it and look for more information. Totally fair. Trustee Rowland.
I would be okay tabling it because I would like confirmation that this is not an international company or somewhere coming from, because that is our policy to support local providers. Powerland is nearby, and that is important to me that we follow our policy on that.
Okay, so I can't remember who I asked to motion this. Who motioned it? Who did? Dent and Boyton. Dent, are you okay about tabling it?
Yeah, I'm okay if we defer it for till the next meeting.
Okay, Robert's rules here. No, that's okay. So if you want to make a motion, Don, to defer it, then go ahead and do that. Otherwise, do we want to defer it? I need a motion to defer it if we want to. Okay, so a motion by Trustee Smith to defer. I need a seconder. By Trustee Rowland. Okay, so we're going to vote on that, and we'll vote by round table, and then if it passes, it'll get deferred. If it doesn't, we'll come back and vote on it. Fair, everyone? Okay.
For clarity, defer to June 20th.
Defer to our next board meeting, June the 20th, yes. Melissa, what do you say?
We question anything?
No, go ahead. What do you want? Sorry, that came out wrong. So was that my wrong inner voice? Sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Trustee Harris. Deferral.
I can't say that online, sorry. So the document we received said they received sealed bids from only 2 firms. So even if we find out the Gen X is further away, but they have a better bid, then what are we doing? Because our policy says we're supposed to be local, but we should also have the most competitive bid. So I'm not sure what deferring is going to do for it. But
Our policy doesn't necessarily, we have to buy local, but it's always a consideration for us to go ahead and do that.
Right.
However, that's away from, hold it, the motion that's on here is about deferral or not. It's not about debating the original motion. Thank you very much. I was trying to get that out here. Okay, so it's on deferral. So I'm going to go round table about deferral. Melissa?
I think I'm ready to vote this evening.
Diane?
Yes, defer.
Diane is a yes. Russ? Russ is a defer. Alicia? Alicia is a defer. Dawn? Dawn is a defer. Diane? I mean, it's Lorraine. Whoa. Lorraine is a no. Dustin?
Having just done a quick Google search, it looks like they're from Mississauga, Ontario. So I think I'll defer.
Dustin is a defer. Harris?
I would be ready to vote tonight.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. We've got 5, so Magna is a no, but it's 5-4. So we're going to defer. Okay? So Jody, you've got kind of the information that we want to bring back, and we'll go from there. Thank you for doing that. We got all that, Stacy? You heard it loud and clear. It was, all right, there we go. All right, so let's move on. We are at committee report.
I can't add tonight.
No, you can't add tonight. Okay, policy committee. So I'm going to turn it over a little bit to you, Lorraine, with regard to some of the stuff that's going on with the policy committee.
So everything was in the packages from our last meeting. They were all put through a notice of motion that these motions would be coming up. So they're pretty self-explanatory. Maybe as we go through the motions one by one, if there are any questions, then happy to answer them.
So the first one is 820. Be it resolved that the board revise policy number 5 as presented. A moved by trustee Boyton, seconded by trustee Smith. Any questions that you want to direct? Question Roland?
I like what you've done here, but I feel like the legend is missing on your new proposed document, where it doesn't explain what the difference between yellow and green is anymore.
The writing is around the outside or the inside, so it would say the board is the one color and the community is the other. So that's your 2 differences. There you go. So the annual board would be in green and the annual community would be in yellow.
I understand that, but what about our people who are like outside of this room? There was a legend on the previous one that explained that the yellow was pertaining to public participation and green was board business. I just feel like the legend, there's an assumption that those colors mean that. So I feel like the legend is just missing off of that.
Sure, we can add the legend back on.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. It passed 9-0, thank you. So 821, motion to revise policy number 7. Be it resolved that the board revise policy number 7 as presented. Moved by trustee Boyton, seconded by trustee Dent. Questions? Trustee Rowan?
I don't have it right in front of me right now at the moment. I accidentally closed it, but there was a change that you made that said when when trustees are elected, I think it might be right there. Just wondering, why do we still say the board elects, like, the contact? I'm just wondering about why we have that word contact still there. Since you're already revising that sentence, like, what is the importance of that word and what does that mean? I'm thinking a revision would be to remove that word as well and just say the board elects committee, whatever. I'm just looking at that one little.
I understand where she's coming. She's talking about maybe removing the word contact and the board elects committee responsibilities, right? Is how you would like to see it read?
So the movers, can that be a friendly amendment to?
The policy committee was just, like I say, we had looked at it and we thought, well, we don't just assign, we do elect them. So that's why we took that one word out.
Sorry, I didn't say that right.
Questions, mover, contact, and I go to Melissa.
Alternatively, you could put the board assigns contact/committee responsibilities through election to individual trustees in the following areas.
What would you like to do, Madam Chair?
I think just by removing the word contact, it makes it easier and it does what it's supposed to do by just saying that we elect. So we can have the word contact removed.
So we can make a friendly amendment. You moved it to remove contact, and there was a seconder, Trustee Dent. You're good about moving the contact? Does that satisfy certainly everyone around the table? Okay. Jody, Stacy, you've got that? Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you for that. Okay, so it passed with one voting no. Thank you for that. We have 822, our operational bylaw. Be it resolved, the board approve the first reading of the operational bylaw 377-23. Moved by Trustee Boyson, seconded by Trustee Smith. Do you want to make any comments to the operational bylaw at all? Yep.
We had sent out a request for trustees to look over the bylaw in advance. We didn't get any feedback back from anybody, so the policy committee did go step by step throughout the whole bylaw, and the changes were noted. So if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from any of the trustees? Thank you for that work. Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. So it passed 9-0. Where are we? 822. 823. So just a reminder is that what Kathy talked about is that if we have an operational bylaw and we have a second reading and it's unanimous, we can have a third reading tonight as well. Just giving the people a heads up. Okay? We could leave it too. 823 operational bylaw. So be it resolved, the board approved the second reading of the operational bylaw 377-23. Moved by Trustee Boyson, seconded by Trustee Smith. Questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. It passed 9-0. Are you good to leave it till next meeting, or what would you like to do, Madam Chair?
I'd like to leave it for the next meeting so this way Stacy has the opportunity to get it into our packages and on the on the agenda.
Thank you. Anything else from the policy committee that you want to touch on? No? Okay. Let's go to the finance committee, Chair Rowland. Anything, updates that you want to give to us from the finance committee chair?
No, we did have our meeting and reviewed the check registers, and I am very much looking forward to having trustees attend our next meeting for our very important discussion. So today we have the check register for approval acceptance.
Okay, so we also have minutes there. For the minutes, any questions for that directed toward Trustee Rowland for the minutes from the Finance Committee meeting on May 18th? It's there for information. Thank you for doing that. Thanks, Jody. Okay, so be it resolved that the board receive April 2023 check register with a total amount of checks of $3,585,689.68 reviewed on May 18th by the Finance Committee for information as submitted. So moved by Trustee Rowland, second by Trustee Rowan. Any comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 9-0, thank you. We have a verbal report on number 27, Education Foundation Committee. Jody?
Yes, so from the last meeting on in May, we had some trustees sign some affidavit documents. I've also completed mine. We sent it off. It was reviewed. There were some questions on the affidavit that I have provided. They have requested additional information, which included a CRA letter issued from 2015. So we've been collecting that with a report. I should have the final affidavit provided or prepared and completed by the end of this week by our legal team, of which should be the final package. Once I have that and all the documents for my affidavit is signed, I'll share it with the board then. So yeah, I was surprised that there was further recommendations, but they found that the letter from CRA and correspondence with CRA should be included in that. So that's the update.
Thanks, Jody. Anything for Jody? Okay, thanks. So we have professional development. So we know Trustee Boyton is off to Alberta at the CSBA. Right now we do not have Superintendent Timko has said that she's not heading out to Victoria for the superintendent's thing over the summer. We have Capsule in Fredericton. Oh, a report. That's right. There we go. So the floor is yours, Mr. Dent.
Well, just a second here, Mr. Trustee Magnan. In my hastiness in leaving the Oakbank Elementary School ribbon cutting, I had regrettably left my report, my speaking notes. So if I could table that till next meeting, I certainly would appreciate that. No, I know. I was panicking. I had already connected with a few people before. I'm like, oh my God. So my apologies.
No worries. Okay, thank you. We have, so we haven't had a divisional financial summary report for a little while, so we've got March and April. Are there any comments from anybody certainly about those are two reports that are there for information? Did you want to comment on it all yourself, Diane? No?
Just generally, it looks like we're going to have a surplus in the end, so wonderful from where we started this year. And if Jody, our Secretary Treasurer, would like to add anything, I think we're on pace and looking pretty good for the next month, this month.
Yeah, I think when it comes to completing the projections, it's always a challenge this time of year, but looking at a small surplus, about $200,000, and that's with consideration of any financial wage commitments that we might have to make in regards to contract settlements. So that's all incorporated in that collection of what might be remaining at the end of the year. There's been some identification in additional grants being received as well in the the March Divisional Financial Summary. But yeah, should anybody have more questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions for Jody? Okay, thanks, Jody. Board correspondence, you'll see some information there from Darcy McLean, former teacher at Lac du Bonnie Senior. ESS construction project information. Nice to know about the Special Olympics. Springfield music teachers. ESS girls hockey team to hit the ice. That's pretty cool. That's really cool about us now having a girls hockey team coming out of Edward Shire. Kudos. Lord Trustee Boytson. Hands up.
I was just thinking that, you know, the thank you to the board for the invitation to the long service. Maybe some of that could have been read out loud at the event, because she does congratulate everybody else. Maybe that could be read out as an acknowledgement. Oh, I thought I did.
We have upcoming meetings. Our last meeting is June the 20th for this year. Question 14.1, questions from the public. Jody, do we have any?
Nope, we don't.
So we briefly have to move back into in-camera, but I don't think that we have any other business, do we? Right? So we can adjourn. So be it resolved that we're adjourning, right? We're adjourned? Good. Thank you.
Adjourn, don't go out.
Adjourn, don't go anywhere. Thank you very much.